Okay, so without any delay, so we will start the session, right? And we have with us Mr. Ramakant Mohapatra, and when we'll talk about, he's here with his expertise, right, and deep knowledge into privacy. And we'll talk about this a lot more, but that's where we are, and that's what we are getting into today. So the topic for the day is data discovery and how it's done, right? So what we are going to do is we're going to talk about what is data discovery, how it is done, benefits, pros, cons, right, around it, other options what we have, manual as well as automated, right? A bit about me. My name is Akash Singh, right? I'm the founder of Tsaaro, CIPM, CIPP, CIPD, FIP. Very similar certifications also Mr. Ramakant has, right? And Ramakant sir comes with a lot more experience. He is currently a director for privacy and data protection at Edge Verve Systems. It's an Infosys company. With over 2 decades of IT experience, he has done hands-on work into privacy and information security, been in global DPO offices, been around DPO, privacy by design, tools, privacy enhancing tech, right? So Mr. Ramakant is full of privacy knowledge, right? And he is one, I think very few people in India, right, have had that experience, right, since day one the privacy started, right? And Mr. Ramakant has been there, right, and he has that extensive experience from which we want to take learning from him. He is also an FIP, a CIPPE, a CIPM, plus he's DCCP, ISO 27. I think all the certifications around privacy, I can just, it's all same thing, but that's what it ends to, right? He is also mentoring startups under DSCI in privacy enhancing tech. So we have today somebody who knows a lot into privacy technology, right? And he's the best guy to tell everyone around how to do data discovery, how to do technology questions. So everybody on this chat, right? My suggestion to you is hold on, right? Tighten your seatbelts, right? And ask the right questions and get the knowledge as much as you can and want to extract. So over to you, Mr. Ramakant. Would you like to, introduce yourself as well?
Yeah. Thanks, Akars. It is a privilege to be part of this panel and just to give my knowledge, whatever I have learned over a period of time. And I hope we should make this session more interactive and so that we hear from each other. And it is not that we know everything at an individual level, but all is learning. So just to give a few basics about data discovery, right, before we start the session. So guys, so data discovery, although we are talking, a lot of tools are there, processes in hand, and many companies, they're coming and doing all this, right? Still, we have not achieved the maturity in this journey in across the globe, because the way that we understand the different data sources, different data levels, databases, SAS model, PAS model, and many more kind of complexity that comes around the world. So till today, although all the different kind of tools or technology, they can claim that we have achieved the epitome of data discovery, but still there are a lot of gray area that need to be addressed. So I just wanted to give you that perspective so that you should not think that there is already end. If I take a tool and do a data discovery, I get all my answers. So that may not be 100% true.
Right.
So you have to live with that session so that we learn more and more, and we have a journey, we have a goal to achieve more maturity in this journey, right? That with that I'll just stay and occurs over to you.
All right, sir. I will get into a bit about Tsaaro. So Tsaaro is an Indian privacy startup, right? We get into privacy consulting, plus we have Tsaaro Academy where we teach, right, and develop the Indian ecosystem, right? Also, we are OneTrust partners, Big ID partners, Privido partners, right? So we are implementers, right? That's what we do. So disclaimer before starting this session, this is not a legal advice. Opinions and presentation are personal for everyone in this session, for all the speakers. This session should not be recorded by you as an attendee. We will record this session and give it to you on YouTube. So just wait for a week, 1.5 weeks, you'll get it automatically, right? This session is just for educational purposes, and that's the only intent for us to come here and tell you. But yeah, before we start this session, before I get into the agenda, my suggestion to you is whatever questions you have, drop them in the text, and you have the best people who will answer today. Agenda. So we'll get into data discovery. We'll get into categories of data discovery. We'll get how do we do that? What are the benefits? Can informative patterns be drawn out of a data set? Yes or no? Okay. Yes. Okay. I think that was an easy question, is it? So let's get into the, get to the chase, right? First questions first. What is data discovery, right? And my question now is directly to Mr. Ramakant here is, how do you see data discovery? Because with 20 years of experience, right, especially in this field, and when you are in data protection, you, the first thing is we kind of understand what we have, and then we protect that, right? So how do you see data discovery, Mr. Ramakant?
Okay, so I'll break into two parts. One is data and one is discovery to start with for the easy understanding for everyone. So as we understand, the data is a different types of data that is available across different sources. Okay, we can tell either electronic media, or it is a hard copy, or it is our chat, or it is our voice and calls and anything, right? So different types of data is available. And the another one is discovery. So discovery is nothing but to find out, so that what is happening and where is all this is there, right? So if you combine the both, so in the world of this particular new generation, I will call new generation because we are using a lot of tools, but I'll do touch upon in the history that what has happened before the technology came in. So we have to search for the data to identify a particular kind of information that we are looking for. Maybe it is already available, or we have to do some kind of massaging on the data to get some information that is known as intelligence. So in the process of last over period of last few decades, when I started my career, so I just wanted to give a perspective that we heard very less about the data discovery word, right? Few years back, maybe one decade back, or by the time we had relational databases and all that in maybe in 1995 or 96, in those areas. So when it became more prominent, we started understanding and identifying the data from a particular data source. That means we have discovered the data. So over a period of the time, we have gone a long way, and a lot of maturity has happened, but with an objective, because each of the data discovery has a purpose. We have to understand that why you are discovering the data, not but the set of just compiling them and collating them, but getting some kind of information, some kind of intelligence for our decision making, or even for our works and day to day in our any aspect of our work. So in nutshell, in a just I want to give a message that try to understand what you have. That means what data you have. In other words, it is known as data inventory in the data in the way of working. And unless we know that what do you have, you cannot do anything with the data. So the discovery word is to identify what you have. And it may be in terms of the different type of data in different type of sources on different kind of medium, which you will see in the course of our discussions today. Over to you, Akash.
Right, sir. I think very well summarized, right? In two parts, looking at what data we have. And that's exactly why we do data discovery. I just wanted to add on to one line, that is, data discovery became more famous over the period of time. One of the reasons is DSAR, right? Because when we try to kind of fulfill a data subject access request, right? And then especially a thing like data catalog or data discovery become more important, because otherwise it becomes impossible to kind of figure out where data is, because structured data we can still find out, but when it comes to unstructured data, we just it just kind of derails us. So okay, so talking about data discovery, right, and let's start a bit behind, right? Let's look at some history around it to
Yeah.
see, Mr. Ramakant, right, is when did it start? Is it a new concept? Is it an old concept, right? Is it ancient concept? How do you look at it?
Yeah, so just like I'll relate to privacy also, so that it makes sense. So right now, because everyone is having a buzz telling privacy, privacy, but if you understand that privacy was there all the time from 1940s, right? After the World War and Human Rights Commission and all that, from that day, privacy existed. In the similar manner, it is not that data was not there, data was there. It was discovered, it was used by understanding, identifying, but the terminology data discovery, that was not used in the way it is used now. So that is the philosophy. So in 1960s, 1990s, if you look at those areas, even we used to have a lot of manual data discoveries. So if you understand, all of you must have gone the census, the population census in India or any other world, right? So if you understand, the lot of discovery happens, people go to the different territories, different villages, they try to identify and collect a data, and that means they discover the data elements, how many male, how many female, and they tag, of course, the names and all. So based on that, the government of India, the central government in any country, they take a lot of decisions. So it was way there, so it is not something it was not there. Now coming back to the next one, what has changed since then? so that we are able to do more and more importance to the data discovery, right? So if you look at that, the way the technology transformation has happened, the need of the data became one of the key, just like we understand that oil in the refineries, and the oil was detecting the economy of a country. And now if you just correlate, right, data is becoming that position, so it is determining the economy and ensuring that stock index of the different countries or all the stock exchanges. So similarly, data became the prominent figure in order to help in a lot of decision making and a fact-based decision making to get and better results in less amount of time. So that is where the data plays a role. And unless you discover the right set of data based on what we required and with a purpose, we cannot do that. So it is there. Now, what has happened now? Now if you look at, and we are all moved into digital world, and now we don't have the time, right? We want everything in the fraction of second or milliseconds. So in order to provide those kind of information or decisions, or even to take decisions for a faster growth, we need to have use our intelligence. So what is the intelligence? Intelligence is something what we feel using the technology, different algorithms, and making it usable in this snippet, right? And one dashboard or one visual representations, right? We do not have the time and patience to go through multiple kind of pages, multiple kind of charts. So just give me one pager or give me just one shot which I'll take a decision. So because of that, the data discovery and identifying the data from different sources, of course, not only one source, has become very, very important in order to take this forward. So to conclude for this topic, so data was already there. It was discovered in different way, in manual way, in hard copy, and it was started taking the automation, taking the electronic path after that. And now we have reached somewhere that we do not want to take any ownership of our data. Someone is taking the ownership of our data. We are giving and someone is storing and taking the intelligence, commercializing it, and maybe we'll get some benefit in the futures to come. Over to you, Akash.
I think that's very well kind of pointed out, saying this is not a new concept, right? This is something that is being running, but user intelligence, as you have rightly pointed out, right, is where we are going. And as the intelligence and the number of data, and as we go online, we want to see and give more privacy to our users. Is data visualization also a part of the process of data discovery? Come on, guys, let's do this quickly and move on, right? So, do you think yes, no, maybe? Is data visualization a part of process of data discovery? Yes or no? Okay. So yes, data visualization is part of data discovery. Okay. Let's come to it and talk about it, right? Answer is yes, by the way. My next point is, what are these categories of data discovery? Because what, as privacy professionals, right? As privacy professionals, my thought process is different. My thought process is like a police, right? Where the data is going, where data is coming from. Should we do this? Should we not do this? Will it affect users' privacy? But still, right? What is the discovery categories that we see on the broad level, on the C-suite level? So Mr. Ramakant, so what are these categories of data discovery? So how does somebody who's learning about this for the first time think about it, can differentiate it? Yeah, over to you.
Yeah. Let's understand that what we need to do in a data discovery. We have a flow, but just to give a context here. So right. So why do we need data? Why we want to identify the data, right? That is very important. And why do you collect and discover the data? So if we understand, right, for each of the data discovery, we should have a particular purpose or an objective attached to that. For example, suppose I am collecting a population registry. That means I have to take some call on my financial 5-year plan for the human resources and the training and food and everything, right? So there is attached, so government is collecting those data. And similarly, in the health sector, we need a lot of data in order to ensure that we do the preparations for the hospitals, preparation for the pandemic. All of us have seen how the COVID has been taken a toll, and some preparation in phase 1 or the wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, you guys must have seen the differences, right? So that means we need a lot of data to be collected. Okay. And if you collect those data, it doesn't mean that it is all there, right? We have to prepare the data to be used. So because we may have a lot of data that will be garbage. So we have to just do that garbage in, garbage out by cleansing the data, make it more qualitative so that we get the most benefit out of the good quality reports or good quality decisions. That is one thing that we have to understand, the data preparation. That is very, very key here. So once you prepare the data, what you are supposed to do? So is it there something over? No, because you have just made the something kind of a dough in an, like in when you want to make a chapati or a pizza, right? You make a dough. Now you have to just use some aspect of that, how you want to see them, what do you want to do. So now right now, if you look at that, no one wants to see anything writing in a text. They all need visual representations, right? So what do you mean by visualization here? Visualization is not that everything has to be pictorial, but it should be meaningful and it should be informative. So in order to make that, so there are different, we have to convert the data in a way that either you give a chart or you give a particular graph or a simple meaning in terms of the coverage, right? So it should give some meaning. So it should be self-explanatory. We should not attach without Tucker's telling about a particular data element. I should be able to guess the first view on that. Very, very important. So that is why visualization comes in the terms of that without attaching any kind of text, am I able to gain or sense something? So that can be only done because using different tools that we'll discuss. So visualization is very, very important here because you cannot just take the data. Now coming to the next one in the analytics. So what's the use if we collect the data, we prepare them, we have some visualization on them, but if you're not doing any kind of analytics on that, right? If I do not know how to use the data or the visualizations. For example, suppose we know that the part of the, if you understand something, that sex ratio in India, right? So if you see some of the states have something upside down, some are more, some are less, and because of that n number of social impacts are there. I don't want to cover that, but the impact is there. So how did the how the data is used by the governments in order to take some decisions, right? So if we know that what are the factors that is impacting them, and it can come through the different data sets, different data that is collected. So the basically we have to combine different data elements in order to give a demographic view based on the objective and attached to the objectives. So we have to have an end-to-end view. That means we have a purpose. We are collecting the data for that purpose. There may be a number of parameters, data element that we are collecting. Hence, we have to use them in the advanced way to get some mileage, get some decision out of that. So hence, that is not possible without having advanced analytics. That means you have to use a lot of intelligence tools, intelligence algorithms, machine learning, and also artificial intelligence, and a number of other different techniques that is available now in order to make it more meaningful and more conclusive, so that with less intervention from the manual way, we can take some decisions which will be very, very objective and result oriented. So right now, the main aim of the data discovery is to have a result which is going to help us in whatever data we have collected or we have spent the effort and meaning. So purpose and results are the key in order to give them integrated, keep this data discovery binding.
All right. So basically, we prepare the dough, right, and for the chapati, then we make the chapati, which is visualization, right, and then we put it on the fryer, right? Advanced analytics. Is this the right approach, sir?
Yeah, you can tell in layman's, because in order to make us understand, so you are just trying to understand that whether what is the quality of chapati and how
But
many
it's
different black dots are there. Okay,
but
so
but
just
it's a great visualization, and I'll definitely remember this forever, and I'm gonna use this. I hope you have not put in patent for this.
no worries.
So
Yeah,
I have a question for you,
yeah,
and I know we are going to cover this question later, but this is a question that two people have asked, right? So
yeah.
important question. So how does data discovery happen on an O365 platform, like for OneDrive, emails, right? Right.
Yeah.
What is that MS sir, which we should use for this?
Okay, so logically, let's understand one thing. The basic premises of any data discovery, I will not cover O365, but definitely I'll touch upon that. The basic premises is the sources of the data. Okay, so one is the source of data and different types of and variety of data, right? That according to five V's of any big data, right? So what happens here in the while you take that O365, you look at the different services that is offered, right? Starting from mailbox in the office scope, then they are also giving OneDrive, different. Starting from your mail till your storage, everything is given. So that means each of the places you have different type of data that is being stored in the different formats. One is different type of data in a different formats, and you want to use them the way you would like to do, right? So now what has happened, the data discovery tools, they are getting improvised. But right now, there are not enough tools who are able to take all the different kind of data formats and able to convert them into one and give you the intelligence. So like that, because suppose everyone wants to take anything in Excel or anything the relation databases, or they are trying to take anything from JSON files, unstructured databases, or even the like MongoDB and other things, that Hadoop and all that we are hearing, right? So the basic premise is we have to understand that what we have to do the data discovery on, what we are aiming at. If you want to do O365, in O365, are you going to select any data that is available in all the sources, office sources, or your mailboxes and your OneDrive, or you want to categorize them? That is one very much important question, because you will all automatically complicate the make it more complex. So we have to
Right.
break it to more simpler.
What tool do we use? Let's agree to that, that maybe in a scanner we may need a scanner. That's the question, is like what should they do? That's
Yeah,
so
see, that is what I would basically first suggest to have what is the objective, right? And what is the data set that you want to do? Understanding that we have mailboxes of different, it will be stored in different way and different formats. And we have also the Excel sheets, we have also MS files, it is done in different way, including if we have to store also PDF files in our OneDrive, right? Of different other boxes, and OneDrive with storage files. So we have to understand what is the first objective, what you want to find out, number one in dataset. Then what different data sets you want to categorize first. You have to prioritize them. Third
right.
one, based on the type of data sets, there are different tools that will be available, because there is no one solution fits all. Because some are good in relational database, some are good in Excel files, some are good in beat images, some are good in images, right? So there are different tools which will do better. So we have to look at what diseases we have, what is the symptom, based on that we have to provide the antibiotics, right? So
Exactly.
we do not have the similar solutions for all the different types of files at this point of time across the globe.
That is such a great point you put forward, right? And I, whenever I go to clients, right, that is my first question, is what do you want, right? And until you know the disease, you can't tell a solution, right? That's I think that's again a perfect thing for me to remember. I hope this is not patented again, sir. So so my 2 cents also in the industry, looking around, right, is there are three options, right? Three very good options that I see. I'm not, again, not suggesting one or two here, but just because we do this every day in our clients, right? This is our work. We are One Trust partners. One Trust has a data discovery tool. We are Big ID partners. Big ID has a data discovery tool, and we also implement MS Office stack. MS Office has, they already have inbuilt data discovery tool. So these are my three options, 3 cents. But obviously there are much more tools available. Big market, growing market, right? But if you are, if you don't want a vendor, which is not secure enough, right? You are an organization of a size of, not a middle size organization. My suggestion is always to go for a tool which gives assurance, for a company which gives assurance, because I think number of hackings that are happening in the industry right now, it's better to be safe than sorry. Okay, so coming to our next question, is data discovery similar to data science? Depends, right? It's towards yes and no, but data science automatically applies. It's same sciences, but still, right? Let's talk about this. So Mr. Ramakant, right? I think a lot of people here on the chat are also from data science backgrounds, because they are also trying to understand. Because see, as you mentioned, you may not need a tool every time. In some of my clients, right, where I work, we have automated internal processes. We automated their internal processes to find data discovery, because at the end of the day, you have a server and you have customer database, right? So until and unless the problem is unstructured data, right? Until unless the problem is unstructured data, the problem is just structured data, we can still run some scripts on the servers and solve the problem, right? With technology teams, right? That's what I have been doing, right? I don't know, you have more experience, but I would love to hear from you. But that's what we did also, right? At some places. But now my question to you is, how do we differentiate? Because technology is such a big part of privacy today, right? There is
Yes,
nothing in privacy that doesn't run on technology, right? Everything, end of
yes.
day, other than contracts, I would say everything is technology.
Yeah.
So yeah, nothing to offend anybody. It's obviously DPAs are very important. Everything is important, but just saying, other than contracts, right? It's a lot of hard work and effort that goes into to move the technology, right? That suggestion, recommendation, observation changes something big in the company. Okay, so big data, data discovery, and data science, right? How do you differentiate? How should privacy professionals differentiate themselves, or should they think that okay, these are the same fields, I'm in the same field? Over to you, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So let's understand that this is a very important slide just to make sure that we understand here, right? And big data, data science, and data discovery. So I'll break into three, then I'll interlink them. So what do you understand by big data? So it is nothing something that we don't know, and that the name suggests here. So big data is an consolidation of a lot of data, okay, from the different data sets. And then they have renamed as, you might be seeing, data lake, data forest, all the terminology you must be thinking, right? And it is, they collect from the different databases, different unstructured databases, and also different file systems. So that means the big data is an consortium of a lot of the different data that are collected, and it has been put in one kind of database that is available. Okay. So right now, that is what is big data. So the storage is very, very important here, because you have to take different formats. You have to make it cleansing. You have to make it in the understandable format, maybe, or many kind of API that should be adaptable. So big data is stored from different data sources with some kind of different intelligence, but there is no intelligence at this point of time on that data, when it's pure raw data that we can say. So that is what data source or data house you can say. So it is named as maybe data lake, data forest, based on that different kind of terminology they use, the data scientist. Now, next one is coming of the data discovery, which is there. So data discovery is one of the activities. It can be done before big data. Okay. In order to source all the different data available in a different places, different sources, right? So that means, suppose some source is in internet, some source is in the different kinds of vendors that we are working, some are in the government database, some in the social networking sites, right? Our data is available in multiple different variety of systems and sources, and the even different countries. So in order to that, we have to do the discovery through the different intelligent discovery tools to identify through the network, identify to the servers, even in your own database, in own laptops, right? Then when we discover them, we have to store them somewhere. That means we have to accumulate them. So they go hand in hand with the big data, right? That is one. Now coming to the data science. Data science, that term, it is not new. It was there earlier, but it has been made more professional in terms of the science. So data science is something which we have to get some intelligence from the data that we are collecting. So when we talk about the intelligence, intelligence in terms of the sense of our insights, data insights, which tells us that what indicators we have. Suppose, for example, if you are running a project, we understand that whether the status of the project is red, amber, or green, right? So it is based on some parameters or some key performance indicators. Similarly, if we automate them and we put some of the indicators on the big data using the algorithms and using the insights and different kind of demographics that the way we want, and represent them in charts and different ways, visualization tools, then we are achieving that. So behind that particular child is the data science, which manipulates a lot of machine learning algorithms, a lot of different type of algorithms, either it is rest or in motion, right? So they use those kind of techniques. Those techniques that is used is nothing but data science concept. So we should not get confused. All the three works together. All three has to coexist. So although we have given here in the differences between pros and cons, don't read between them in line that they're standalone. They all are correlated, because in order to make the data discovery, the data science more effective, they have to be coexisting. They are
Right,
interlinked.
sir.
That is one.
Right,
Just
sir.
giving this example to the privacy and security, right? Just I will give that so that you understand it's better. So someone security wants to monitor everything. If you look at that, right? For national security, for this, for that, everything they want to monitor, including the user profiling and behavior analytics. Whereas what does privacy says? Privacy says you have to monitor with a purpose. Don't just collect all the data and do whatever you want to do. But if you look at that, data privacy and data science and security should coexist with each other. They have to be balanced. they have to handshake and see what is the maximum based on the risk assessment. So that is very, very key here. So similarly, the data science has to use the data and the different tools with some kind of balancing act, so that we don't overdo, but we should not also undermine the importance of the data science. Over to you, Akars.
All right, sir. I think very fairly put across. But I also have some, follow-up questions for you from the last question.
Yes.
I think when we kind of talked about the discovery, right, the disease and the solution, right?
Yeah.
The follow-up question was, what is the best practice in this area, right? How have you seen one implementation or two implementations across, right, that you can share a success story with us, right? Maybe not client names, but just just how it was done. Maybe we can get some insights from you, right? And maybe people here on the call can take learning, right, and make their privacy programs better tomorrow.
Okay, so Akars, what I'll do, I'll keep this example at the end once you cover the data privacy part. So with that, I'll articulate, I'll give an example. Yeah, I'll give
Sure,
an
sir.
example. Yes.
Perfect. I think that would be great for everyone. One more question. I would like to take this question if it's possible.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
so can you tell us, right? Let's say data discovery happens, right? Let's say,
Okay.
so Tej has asked, if data discovery happens, what kind of report is generated discovery scan, and how can a company benefit from these scans from a privacy perspective? Is a question here in the chat.
Okay, so let's understand one thing. So I'll give this example using the user behavior analytics, right? That may be the opt here. So what happens right now? If you remember, we all are working from home. Most of us for almost 2 years, and right now, although the companies wants us to come back, but we are little bit do not want to get into hybrid models, right? That is what the analyst and the researchers say. So now what has happened, the of late, so because of the work from home, there are many companies in the US who are sensitive about their financial data and other data. They started using, telling that how do I monitor my data, where for people Ramakant working from home or someone XYZ working from home, right? So they started asking the different service providers, outsourcing partners, to include the surveillance like in cameras on their home on the top of the web cameras, right? So that it will monitor. Some of the guys, they started using that, can we have an imprint of like an code in your kind of screen, which will be always running as long as you're working. When you go off, it will be shut, so that they can know how much time you are at your desk. So there are different mechanisms in order to see that how you are working, number one, and whether you are able to provide any data, right? Whether you are getting any screenshot through your camera, or you are able to share the files through different ways. So they wanted to monitor that. So that is one of the business problem, because they feel that data can be stolen very easily. And okay, and for the set of the context of the India as a country, because we do not have privacy law yet, so that was the more something pertinent question for them. Now what happens here, so the different companies, they started analyzing and collecting this data. Okay, when they started collecting this data, they have to analyze. That is what I think Tej is asking. So they have to analyze the data to understand what are the outliers, right? Who is not matching about the number of hours, who is having a outliers and flagging that, okay, he was not present and his machine was idle, or he's going and searching some other websites instead of searching the customer websites. So when you look at that, these all are the personal data, right? This impede the privacy of the individual. That is what let's understand as the privacy professionals. But however, you look at something that as an employer has signed a contract with the customer, telling that I have to give you the best security available, irrespective of any kind of scenarios, right? Unfortunately, COVID was different, but that also is covered under that. So then there was based on the kind of analysis that customers will do, and also they will send the outliers of some of the things. Then the service providers, employers will start asking the questions here. So here the reporting is based on the behavior analytics. That means outliers is Ramakant is not logged in 8 hours or 8.45 hours, right? Or Ramakant is not present, or he was seen by the different kind of what do you call the digital signs in the available in your screens. So they have captured something. Now, in order to tell this, so the objective here is that we have collected some data. We can use the data based on our requirement. We may still not tell the guy and give the report to the customer, because you have to be customer, and are we transparent or violating the use.
Right.
may
So
use. Okay. The second one, another one, we have to understand that whether that where we have to store this data, because it is very sensitive. So if it is hacked or this data set of so many people of user behavior analytics is somehow leaked or disclosed, it is going to make a lot of problem the overall, right? It will undergo the DPAs, because it is not only one data, not for Indian guys, it will be monitored across all the globes, right? Wherever people are working. So this is one example, but we'll touch upon in detail in the end, because we
right.
have to talk on the data privacy impact.
So I just kind of wanted to point one more thing is we are in time constraint. I know this discussion is never ending, right? So
Yeah.
we just have 20 more minutes. So if we can take up more questions and kind of get into this quickly, explain a few more things, miss out a few slides. I'm really sorry for that.
Yeah, no
Uh,
problem. We'll
mm,
just, if you don't mind, we'll go to challenges. I think the
yeah,
go back to the previous one. Just we'll just cover that. I'll just take 1 minute only there.
sure, sure, sure. So
No
there's one
problem.
more question, by the way, on
Yeah.
challenges. So let me just add on to that. So somebody is also asked what would be the major challenges during data discovery in general aspects. So that question is also there. So yeah, I
Yeah.
thought, yeah,
We'll talk upon that. And just go back to the previous one, occurs previous slide. Okay, so here this overall the data discover the process flow, right? So it is very clear in the presentation. Okay, just to give you something, we did discuss about the objective, that is identity needs. So what is the purpose? We did do that, and we did talk about what is the use of the data. That is what value will get. What is the insight? What is the decision making results? We talked about that. So in between, if you look at that, we did talk about the data sources of multiple sources. We did talk, and we did talk about what is the combination of the data, right? The way we'll use the data by combining multiple fields or multiple sources. That is known as fusion and also union. That is very, very important here. And if you look at that, that is what nicely put is parse unnecessary data. That will just touch upon when we talk about data privacy section here. But data protection nicely articulated. Because unless once you are having the data, before you go and analyze the data, here only you have to do that segregation. Either you do the anonymization or the pseudonymization or strip of the data, which you don't require. Because if you are going to have an aggregate analysis, for example, in the COVID cases, where I was a part of the Arogya Setu implementation, privacy implementation core team, think tank. So there, why do the hospitals need to know whether it is attributed to Ramakant? So there is differential privacy was used in order to ensure that we strip up the data, and only whatever is given to hospitals will be given, whatever is required to give to police will be given. So that was very, very nicely done, guys. We should be proud for India if you guys feel that we have not done. Arogya Setu is one of the best accommodated among all the similar tracking systems across the globe. Okay, just you have to take that pride. Now the analysis, we did talk about the analysis of the visualization, the insights, the way we will use the tools. We didn't get there and use. So just want to correlate so that whenever we talk about data privacy in another 1 minute, we should not miss out that all these steps. Very, very important to keep as a reference occurs. Okay, we can go to the
right.
challenges.
So coming on to the challenges, right? Implementing data discovery or after implementation of discovery, what are these things that I should keep in
See,
mind as a DPO?
as a data privacy, so what we have to do first of all, wherever you're collecting the data, right? It is very, very important when you are collecting, either you collect from any sources. Very important, either you are directly collecting from the user or you are collecting from different sources, maybe third party sources. That is, we are procuring the data by buying the data. Many of the places, see, many of the data discovery data analytics company are there. They don't do, but they do a lot of analytics and give the data, right? So in those cases, data collection is very important. It has to be point of collection, we have to ensure. And even if you are collecting data in your systems, guys, if you are not directly collecting, then you should give a disclaimer or a notice to the guy where you're collecting, telling that yes, we are taking the data because you have followed the data privacy guidelines while collection. Very, very important. That is one filter. Now, when it comes to our data, as long as the data is coming into our territory, right, and maybe our data sets, very important to ensure that encryption is in place. Because during our use of the whatever you do, either you do the data cleansing, data processing, whatever you do the massaging, during that time a lot of data also will be out. So we have to ensure that we have encrypting the data, and there itself we have to put all the kind of security controls, okay, which is a challenge, right? We have to put them, and access level control and maybe non-disclosure agreement, all that has to be put in place. So that is one set of that challenge will come in the there, and we start So what you have to do, then you have to decide whether you want to give the aggregate level, or you want to have some level also tagged along with some of the kind of personal identifiers. So always it is suggested in the big data and the discovery, because you do not want to identify any person or you want to tag to anything, because you are doing it in mass. So when you are going to discovery at an enterprise level, unless it's very pertinent to identify particular outliers, we should always do at the aggregate level. That is the third philosophy. So when you do at aggregate level, you have to disjoint the data set, do one kind of pseudonymization, or you do ensure that you delete and disconnect those identifiers and the other fields required. Then on that, you again do little bit of scanning to understand, is there any pockets of indirect way of personal identifier hiding somewhere. So the tools are there, they will do that. So once you do that particular one, that means our data is ready with data privacy details, but you have to ensure that encryption is never compromised. So then you use the kind of different tools. So here a question is about open source. Of course, the open source tools that you take, it comes under different communities. So you have to take or download some open source tools if you are not having licensed ones, to ensure that the tool you buy and implement in your data. And unfortunately, always we recommend to do in-house or on-prem this kind of analysis, because if you are putting in cloud, we do not know, those versions of the open source might have linkages somewhere, because they are not own, no accountability on those tools, right? So that is very important if you are using open sources. So once you use the open sources, you do one vulnerability check on those tools, very important, before you deploy any
Right.
tool. And
Right, sir.
also, if you are taking licensed ones, you ensure that the licensed ones, what is the scope of their interpreting in your different tools, but when they will come to your data, right? Very important. What is the data sharing? What is the APIs? What is the connector that will be used? Very important here. So
So I
once
think
you,
open source, I think I just wanted to add on to that,
yeah,
right? And with the time limit, unfortunately, sir, is
yeah,
forcing me to,
yes.
but just want to add on to a very great point that you made, right? And I have been implementing this. So when I think in any open source tool for data discovery is something that I usually keep away from, because it gets into all my servers, right? And scans the server. The virtual machine usually for any data discovery tool is our own private cloud hosted by ourselves organization. But for a small, medium-sized organization who's trying to achieve this, I think we need to kind of see in detail how we can do this. And
Yes,
that's,
yes.
yeah. So, sir, I think probably just take questions, right? Okay.
Yes, guys. So open to questions. You can ask questions. Whatever
So I
best
have
possible, we
I have
answer.
questions for you, sir. I have already have questions for you.
You should not ask.
No, I don't. I'm not asking my questions. I'm asking the questions that are there in the chat.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Q&A.
yeah,
So wanted to hear the best practices in this area, right? So we
yeah,
discussed, right, that
yeah.
if you can tell, right, for O365, we're talking about O365 data discovery. What is the best practice?
Okay, the best practices that which we can see is one thing about the step by step we'll go. One is we have to ensure that in kind of I'll talk on mail first, emails. So we have Active Directory there. In Active Directory, you must have given n number of attributes which will define and give the privilege and the control of the individuals. That is very important. So try to identify all the attributes that has been given to O365 configuration. Number one. Once we have that, then we have to understand that in that particular one AD, which are the primary fields. That means what are the primary fields and what are the personal IDs, PIIs or SPIs. Very important to identify there itself. So once you have identified that, then we have to tag them separately. By Microsoft will do that for us. So once you tag your PIIs according to the context of what is told about the world, that these are the PII list, and then you should have also, as an enterprise, you can also consider something as your privacy aspect. Then you can add that. So once you do the data classification, you have done that this is the PII, this is non-PII, then you have the list which you have to match. Then using that tool, and if you are using any kind of tool of Microsoft has some kind of tool, but you can use any other tools that use that, then feed this kind of as a filter to a tool, and try to ensure that whenever they search, they start tagging or flagging the PIH across your inventory category. So that you can do that, you need to do customization for that. So you can start doing that, so that like, and when it is traversing, right, it will start marking that these are PIH available. Then
Right.
that can be downloaded, the data set can be downloaded easily, and then you can see that which are the data sources that has come, that has traversed. Then you will
Mhm.
have a record of all the data at one place. Then you can segregate those flagged ones easily and then separate out the data set so that you have something called your PII related and something which are known as non-PII. Then you can start understanding the behaviors, the who is accessing how much time, who is spending more time on mail, who is giving, right? You can start analyzing whatever you want to do in terms of that. So that is one set. Now the understanding, I understood the point that in Excel sheets or in the Word documents, in the presentations, and even other the data storage, we may have PI which are embedded as well, right? So how to get those data also very important. So right now there is
Right,
no
sir.
maturity which has happened in this field. Okay, but people are trying. There are different technologies being done, but it is a little costly because some scanning has to be done. Okay, the scan has to be done because the PPT scanning or identifying the PI is different, but the fundamentals are same. It has to check those fundamentals PI elements and flag it out. So flagging, scanning and flagging is one of the major thing. If you are able to crack that in any of the different data sets, then you are able to get that. That is number one. So once you have correlated all those data points, one suggestion is don't wait for completing this exercise. That is the best practice, because you cannot think that I will take 6 months to collect all the data first. That is not a right decision. You have to do in buckets. You have to do data set by data set. You have to do pilot first. So once it is done, the technology and the algorithms will be refined. Then you can move on in order to do one big bang approach, right? So the very important, because you may fail. Some of the algorithms may not work because although we can say that it has been proven, but in your environment it might be different because you will have more controls which will be there. So
Right.
that is the second. The third one is, once you do that, then storing at a common location is very important, right? And once you store, you have to ensure that define a retention period there, guys. Okay, and if you cannot define the retention period, then it is very difficult, because these data will have a lot of sensitive data available because user behaviors will be available, because we do not know what enterprise want to monitor, right? Why they're collecting data, very important. So you have to have that. Now next one is, once you do that, in the in between, people will ask you that you have collected data, because some of the data elements will toss their own laptops, own their own data sets, their own what you call archival PDFs, right? Archival what you call the mailboxes, right? So that it will touch. So you have to tell them you are doing that for a kind of assessment which is required, and we have to understand. So that is one known as transparency you have to do. Now people may still ask that why you are doing this. I don't know. If you run in European databases, you will have more questions. So we have to have that organizational change management better done before. Okay, that is so that we avoid a lot of DSRs in that context, right? Because the common DSRs has to be avoided by through the training and orientation, organizational change management. That is very important. Okay, so while
Right,
we
sir.
do that, while you do that, of course, you will take care of all the security controls, access controls, and you should have separate databases on this. You should not common databases be used for this. That is one. And then you have to have something called records of processing, because since you are doing this exercise and it is classified as an high risk, so risk processing, although you are identifying and mapping, but according to the data protection regulations, it will be known as high risk. So we have to ensure that we follow the records of processing activities, and we understand the risk, and we have to do a privacy impact assessment of this data discovery also, that what will be the different risks, and if there are some things that we need to plug in, better you do that in the process. So it is very important. So privacy impact assessment should not be neglected. Records of processing should be maintained. Risk assessment has to be done. Okay. And if you are using any third party, ensure that those vendors also are privacy compliant, or you do those assessment
Right,
before
sir.
you take them. Okay. So
Right,
these are
sir.
some of the best practices that you can leverage on, guys, before taking on this approach.
I think people are saying that we need another session because of the such a amazing session that Ramakant sir, you're here, and your answers are amazing, your knowledge is amazing, and there's so much to learn even for me personally, in this session that I've learned from you, right? And it's thank you, by the way, first of all, before getting there. So, guys, we are coming towards the end of this session, right? And keeping the time in mind, as Tsaaro, we do webinars for 1 hour, right? And we will do another session. If Sir agrees, I'll talk to him and we'll get into more technical discussions next time. If you have any questions around data discovery, right, you can reach out to Saro, you can reach out to me. But the most important thing today is you have Mr. Ramakant's LinkedIn ID in the chat box. Just drop him a text, right? If you have any more questions, technical questions, I'm here to answer as well. But obviously, you have the expert guys, right? And he's here and he helped us. He has knowledge, and we kind of got that. Thanks a ton, Mr. Ramakant, to join a Saro session. It's a privilege to host you here. And over to you for a thank you note.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, guys. I hope this session was useful, and definitely we can connect. And privacy is a small world, and I'm always available for sharing my knowledge and providing whatever the best knowledge I can give. Thanks, Tsaaro, for organizing this and speaking to the people specific on this data discovery and privacy. Thank you again.
Yeah. Thanks a ton, sir, for joining this, for helping us, getting us ahead, getting us sorted. And thank you everyone for joining the session. It's a privilege to host you. And I will see you soon in the next webinar. Stay connected, and we will be back, guys, with the next session. Have a nice day, and I'll see you soon. And best of luck for your Friday.
Thank you. Thank you.